Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Friday the 10th of October 2024. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Story number 1, the S&P ASX 200 closed up 0.4% to 8,223 points. The banks were mixed while the miners were stronger on the back of higher iron ore prices. Fortescue Metals Group closed up 4%. Rio Tinto rose 1.4% after agreeing last night to buy Arcadium Lithium for $9.9 billion. Best on the day was Arcadium, up 39%. Other lithium stocks benefited with rises in Lake Resources, Sayona Mining and Liontown Resources. Woodside and Santos bounced after oil prices rebounded somewhat. BHP added 1.4% after Norway's sovereign fund, Norges Bank, removed the mining giant from a climate watch list where it was placed in 2020 due to coal use and production. In other corporate news, auto parts manufacturer ARB Corporation rose after it said it's closer to completing its acquisition of US business Four Wheel Parts. Financial services provider Netwealth's share price also jumped after posting a record increase in funds under administration over the September quarter. It's a good day for New Zealand dairy company Synlat as well, and mining services group Perenti rose more than 2% after signing a 2-year extension with lithium company IGO to mine at the Nova nickel mine in Western Australia. Story number 2, Guzman Gomez, one of the hottest stocks on the ASX in recent months, said it is on track to meet already bullish growth projections and open more stores internationally. In its first quarterly sales update since its June listing, the company said it was on track to meet the prospectus forecast this financial year, including a target of opening 31 new restaurants in Australia. The company's share price, listed at $22, it's now worth almost $39. In the update today, Guzman said sales growth was above expectations in Australia, Singapore and Japan, its core division, and is being helped by a new advertising campaign and demand for cheaper items such as the $12 chicken mini meal. Guzman now has 226 stores around the world, up from 220 at the end of June. 199 of those are in Australia. Story number 3, ASX-listed wine producer Australian Vintage, the company behind the McGuigan, Tempest 2 and Nepenthe labels, has rehired the chief executive it sacked for a lack of judgment less than 6 months ago. Craig Garvin, who left in May, has returned to the company under a new board and said he is not bitter about his past treatment, according to a report in the Fin Review. Australian Vintage had never detailed why Mr. Garvin was removed, saying simply he displayed a lack of judgment inconsistent with the values of the company. Yesterday, Mr. Garvin said, and I quote, "The past is the past, it's upward and onward." He said he'd refocus on building Australian Vintage's share price, which has fallen more than 60% in 6 months. Story number 4, legislation upping the tax rate for earnings on superannuation balances above $3 million passed the lower house today and will go to the Senate with a fight expected from the Greens. Under the legislation, the tax rate on the earnings of superannuation balances exceeding $3 million will go from 15% to 30%. The government rejected a push by Teal independents to have the $3 million cap indexed to avoid increasing numbers of Australians being subject to the tax due to bracket creep. In the Senate, the government needs the support of the Greens and at least 3 crossbenchers to pass it. The Greens previously have called for the threshold for the new tax to be lowered to $2 million. There's also contention over the rules being applied to unrealised capital gains, which could force farmers and small business owners who own farms or business premises in their SMSFs to sell these assets to meet their new tax obligations. And story number 5, Hurricane Milton slammed into Florida this morning, Australian time, bringing life-threatening flooding and leaving millions without power. The cyclone made landfall near Siesta Key in Sarasota County as a Category 3 storm with winds of up to 180 kilometres an hour, according to the US National Hurricane Centre. It's forecast to remain at hurricane strength while it moves across central Florida. The centre warned that the storm would bring devastating rains and damaging winds with life-threatening gusts, tornadoes and storm surges of up to 13 foot that could inundate urban areas and flash flooding. More than 2 million homes and businesses were without power in Florida a few hours ago. Milton is the second major hurricane to hit the US in a fortnight. It comes after Hurricane Helene wreaked havoc across several southeastern states, killing more than 225 people and destroying roads across North Carolina. That's it for the afternoon report for the 10th of October, 2024. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast and find Fear and Greed on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, TikTok and Facebook. Join Michael Thompson and I tomorrow morning for the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed, the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.